This is an overview of my quiver as of May 1st, 2021. I'm really proud of this collection of boards and I'm pretty excited to share how I've customized them to suit me as a rider and also maybe a couple things I would change about them. On the left is my Zenit Marble 40. This is a big double kickboard that I use for freestyle, dancing, freeride, and flat ground tricks. I've even taken it to a skate park a couple of times. This board at 9 inches wide is relatively narrow compared to other boards in its class. It does make it hard to cross step on because your feet are so close together. There's not a lot of room on the board to stand. But I do like that it keeps the weight down when I'm doing pop tricks like kick flips, shove-its, 180s, ollies, things of that nature. And for the same reason, I keep the 150 millimeter Paris on it because it keeps the weight down. It also keeps the wheels better tucked under the board. I think this helps it rotate around when I'm doing tricks. And also I like the directness of the carving on this board. It feels really, really good underfoot at low speeds. When I start going faster on this board, it does become a little bit unforgiving, not necessarily wobbly, but it's just really snappy in and out of slides. So when I'm free riding this board, it's better suited to slow free ride and a little bit scary when I go faster. If I were to change things about this board, it would only be to make it more free ride friendly. I'd put 165 millimeter trucks on it with 43-degree base plate, and I think that would just mellow out the slides at faster speeds. In its current configuration, it does want to high side a lot, and that can be pretty scary, and it can really ruin my confidence when I'm preparing to do a slide. Right here is my Madrid Nessie, and I describe this as my go fast board. Not because the deck is inherently a really great downhill board, but just because I've got it set up to be one. In the front, I've got a 50-degree truck, and in the back, I've got the back truck de-wedged to 30 degrees. That's because I always ride this setup directionally. I'm always rolling this way, and the front truck gives me a really nice liveliness, a really nice playfulness, and the back truck compensates with some really good stability. I have all of these boards, actually just this one, and the one we'll get to, set up on Venom bushings, and that's just because I found that it's easiest to come to a setup that I'm confident on. On the Venom bushings, I feel like having less options is actually better. With Riptide bushings, I feel like they have so many options of the formula and the shape and the duro that it would be really easy for me to get lost purchasing their products and never really come to a setup that I'm satisfied with. With Venom, I found it's really easy to set up all my boards. So back to this board, it does have a kicktail that I really, really like. You can see this one is pretty squared off, just from the way that I've rode it and the way that I carry it around. The kicktail is flat and pops really high, unlike the Zenit Marble 40, which has a curved kicktail. It goes up and it pops the board pretty steep. I find myself having a lot more control on ollies on this board than this board, but this board does have big heavy wheels on it and a little bit bigger trucks, so it is a little bit less conducive to ollies in its current configuration. I think it's best run on its smallest wheelbase, and that's just after trying everything for myself. I found I like the smallest wheelbase the most. I'm always riding big downhill wheels on this board, nice grippy wheels, and that's just because the runs I'm taking this board on really suit grippy wheels, and I enjoy the cornering that I get out of this board and the quick braking. Some of the other downhill wheels I use are the Hogs Cheetahs, Quay Killers, the Black Powell race wheels, the Mach 1 Cannibals, and my beloved Muirskate Fat Boys. These wheels, as you can see, used to be 75 millimeters, meaning they're approximately this size when they're new, but I've done a ton of riding on them and really worn them down, so now they don't really hold up in speed or performance anymore, but I do keep them around because I like them. Right now, if I were to change anything about this board, is I would change the front foot concave to have the wheel flares a little bit higher. I feel like the current place where I stand, which is right over top of my front truck, doesn't allow me to fully get everything out of the concave, and I do struggle finding a great foot position on the front of this board. Also, I do intend to chop my trucks to make them a little bit narrower so my wheels are more tucked underneath my deck. And what I think that's going to do is help my cornering and braking. I feel like I'm going to be able to apply more force into the wheel and really engage the lips of the wheel, and I'm going to get better kind of race performance. out of this board. Next, I have the slide winder from Palo Peralta. This is a flight deck, so it has their unique construction that includes a layer of carbon fiber or two. It's incredibly stiff, it's incredibly poppy. I don't have an awful lot of time on this setup, but it is the board I would like to take to skate park and the board that I like to practice flat ground tricks on. This was a really awesome board for me because of the size. It looks like a regular skateboard, but it's approximately 2 inches longer, and it has a 2-inch longer wheelbase and 1 inch wider in width. I'm 6'7" with size 13 feet, and this really helps me get locked in on my board. I've been riding street skateboards for a long time. I've got a few old dead ones over here, and one issue I've always had is not being able to find a great balance point on my boards. And when I saw this board and saw the dimensions, I knew I had to ride it because it would finally feel like a skateboard setup for a person like me. I have the 169mm Indy trucks on this with the seismic Oscar wheels. These are a soft street wheel. I think they're advertised as being like a filmer wheel, but I really enjoy the low profile on this board to keep the weight down and also kind of keep that classic skateboard look without sacrificing the roughness and the really, really icy, scary slipperiness of a traditional hard skateboard wheel. I have the Bones hardcore bushings in this board. I have the hard version of those, and while they did take a while to break in, I think they really complemented the Indy trucks, and I really like the way that this board feels right now. Next is my Pantheon Trip. I bought this board used in the fall, so probably 6 to 8 months ago. This board is a really awesome long distance pusher, but I don't find myself doing a lot of long distance pushing. Frankly, most of the riding that I do on this board, I'd be just as happy riding almost anything else in my setup. So I do think this is going to be exiting my quiver very soon, but in the meantime, I have enjoyed my time on it. I usually set it up with the LDP Seismic Alphas, the big 80mm kind of like narrow cut seismic wheels. They have a really awesome roll speed and a lot of grip. They are cut down so that they don't have as much grip as usual, and anticipate a review coming out for those wheels. This board is just a little bit too flexy for the kind of slides I like to do on it. I know it's not really intended for free ride, but I can't help myself but to slide when I'm on this board, and the extra flex in the deck causes a lot of chatter in my wheels and the slides to be pretty unpredictable upon kickout and upon hookup. The long wheelbase and the low drop-down shape does make it very forgiving for slides. However, the way I like to use the board, how I like to set it up, doesn't feel very good for slides. Also, the stance is pretty tight, which is actually really fun to use. The board is really nimble because unlike other drop-throughs, it has a little bit shorter wheelbase, and so that makes it turn faster. But the stance is pretty tight, and I have had people stand on this board in the past and say, yeah, my feet are just too close together. I can't get comfortable on this board. Next is a board that has a lot of sentimentality to me, a lot of heritage. This is a big old Santa Cruz pool board, and the rails on the edges and this like kicktail pad I did not install. This was actually my uncle's board before he passed away, and it was passed down to me because I was the only skater in the family. This is a super, super cool deck. It's really wide and has a really flat concave, so it is its own interesting challenge to push around, to slide around, and to do tricks on. And recently I added the waterborne surf adapter to it to really, not only to try out the surf adapter, but to make this board stand out in my lineup. I already had my dedicated cruiser and I already had my like trick flat ground park board. So this board really wasn't getting much love until I added the surf adapter to it. And now it is so much fun to just tire myself out in 20 minutes in my parking lot, because this board, it feels like a ripstick. It's crazy how it pumps around, and it's so agile, and it's frankly a little bit scary, but it does add a flavor to my quiver that I really, really enjoy. And I just appreciate that I can still ride this heritage board that's very sentimental to me. The wheels that are on it are not very important. I won't talk about them. Over here is my Arizonan T Cruiser. This is about the size of a dinghy, and as a matter of fact, I have the wheels from a dinghy on it. The wheels are these 63 millimeter chubby hogs, and I think they're a really awesome cruising wheel because their super wide width makes them really, I guess, attractive for cruising around. They soak up the bumps really well, and they ride like a wheel more like 70 millimeters, despite them only being 63 millimeters. I'm really thrilled with the way I have this set up. I actually put some Paris cones on the bottom of these Venture trucks to give them a lot more turn, a lot more lean than the stock bushings. And this board is honestly such a hoot to ride. If I'm running errands, if I'm traveling across my college campus, I usually take this board because it just makes me grin the whole way. The Pantheon Trip, while being more efficient with larger wheels and this easy turning low platform, I find that it kind of makes the ride a little boring, and this one always livens up every sidewalk cruise. On the very end is my Carbon Moonshine version 1 Spirit. I can't actually talk about this board too much because I haven't ridden it yet. This is going to be the replacement for my Madrid Nessie. It's going to be a little bit more dedicated downhill board. It's a little bit stiffer, a little more narrow. The wheelbase options go slightly smaller than the Madrid Nessie, so this is gonna kind of be a step into techie downhill setups that I've been looking for. I'm curious to see how the stiffness works for me and if I can notice an increased control or increased stability compared to my Maple Madrid Nessie, but I will be making a review on this board, and I'm not going to talk too much about it right now because that would be completely out of pocket and out of place. What is your favorite board that you ride? It doesn't have to be one from this list. I want to hear the kind of setups that you've put together and why they're special to you. So if you can put a brief thing down in the comments, I would really enjoy reading that sort of thing. Also, let me know which one of these boards you would like to own the most. I see a lot of people kind of talking about and searching for these Moonshine Spirits right now. I know they've been out of stock for a while, so I'm pretty glad that I got my hands on one. But out of this setup, it might surprise you that I like the Arizona T-board the most. That's just the one that makes me grin the most. It's the one I don't want to change. All of these other boards have some feature about them that I wish I could change, that I could improve, or that I could upgrade. But as it currently stands, any one of these boards is really awesome and is treating me to a great time skateboarding. So thank you so much for watching. We will turn the camera around. I'm totally out of breath. This was very hard to make in one take, and my photo library is full of videos that are not going to get posted. But this was a really fun video to make. I hope it kind of answers some of your questions about my preferences in my downhill setup, the type of things that I want to ride. And frankly, if this does good, if this is interesting to you as a viewer, I might continue making these videos as I update my quiver, as boards come and go, and as I get to try new components. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an awesome day.